Good afternoon, District 25. Welcome to the 10th episode. Yes, we have made it to 10 episodes of 25 with Tech 25. I, Tim Higgins, Secretary for District 25, joined with
Chris Fano, Director of Technology and Assessment. Our ratings are high enough now. We get to go 10 more episodes.
we got picked up.
Yeah.
Andrew Benton, Data and Systems Specialist with Tech 25.
And so we're here again today to talk about ICE. We've got all sorts of things to talk about. After last week, we were there Thursday and Friday at the ICE conference, which is the Illinois Computing Educators Conference in beautiful St. Charles, Illinois, at the regionally famous Pheasant Run Resort. And really, it was just kind of several days of technology education, how it can be used, how it's being used, and just sharing ideas. Last week, we were joined by Caitlin Fikes and Ellen Polito, who came on and sat in on the show. They presented at ICE, and so they told our audience, hopefully all of you, a little bit about what they presented on. We also had a video from Enda Kelly and Renee Fitzsimmons, who also presented. But we kind of decided that we had a lot that we learned, that we picked up, that we wanted to share here today. So I think that's what we're going to do.
Yep. And I think before we get started with each one of us kind of going over some of the highlights that we found at ICE, we want to encourage everybody there who's watching or who watches this later, make sure you ask somebody who went to ICE if you didn't have the chance to go about what they learned or what they saw. If you did attend ICE, please make sure you share that information out at a staff meeting. It really is a sharing that makes these kind of conferences, spread out throughout the district. And to keep the conversation going while we're talking, you can always tweet us at HST25Tech, or you can send an email to tech25@se25.org at any time. Questions you have about what we're talking about, just funny stories you may want to share, maybe a pun or two, whatever you want to send our way, we'll take a look at during the broadcast, and of course each and every day.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that, I guess, kind of brings us, we have a lot that we all want to talk about. We're all, especially Andrew, is very excited to be sharing with you all the stuff that he has learned today. But I'm going to start first. We're going to make him wait a couple minutes. And so some of the stuff that I really found interesting, and it kind of goes along a little bit with what this kind of the show is all about, which is the fact that we are part of this very online world. And a lot of things are accessible there. We talk about Google Docs, Google Sheets, where you can create documents, create forms, all on the internet, share it across. It's this interconnected kind of world. And a couple of things that I sat in on at ICE were related very much to that. So
let's check them out.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. And the first thing I want to talk about was actually a secondary presentation by the keynote speaker on Friday. His name was Jim Sill, who was a guy who worked in production, in TV production, film production for many years, and then kind of switched over into education. And he talked about sort of how in the classroom you can kind of make your lessons and everything more, I don't know, kind of reach the kids more, grab attention easier by putting this sort of narrative filmmaking style into it. The second thing he talked about was this really great resource that Google has put out there called the Google Cultural Institute, which basically puts all of these artifacts, exhibits, pieces of art, and even locations in full museums here at our fingertips to kind of explore. It's a very neat resource in terms of research, and it's extremely visual. With the cameras that we have these days, they have brought in, and I'll show you actually right now. Kind of, I'm going to search for. So I guess first, on the main page, it kind of breaks it down into art, historic moments, world wonders, and so on and so forth, into different exhibits or pieces of art that they wanted to highlight at this particular time. One kind of cool thing is also that they've brought in, so if you're familiar at all with the Google Maps, the Street View, they've done that same idea, but inside of all sorts of museums or famous world locations all over the world. One of which being the Chicago, Chicago History Museum, but actually the one I want to talk about is the Art Institute in Chicago. So kind of a cool thing about this is that, you don't need to take a whole busload of kids downtown or, across the world to different museums. You have the access to them right here. So if I go and click on the same little Google Street View, we see that we are now all of a sudden inside of the Art Institute. And it lets us walk around it just like as if we were on Street View on Google Maps. The cooler thing, besides just, kind of, oh, wow, neat, a whole museum, is that you can zoom all the way in. They're extremely high resolution cameras that they've used, so you can get down and see all the minute details. You could have your little Ferris Bueller's Day Off moment here where you can zoom in, get very close, even like down to the brush strokes. Yeah, hey, thank you. Wow. Chris Fano has been exploring the Cultural Institute. One of the other neat little features here is that if you click on one of these little black squares that pops up, it zooms totally in on the full resolution picture of it. But then if you are interested, in the upper left-hand corner, you can click on this details option, which gives you the actual information that's displayed along with the painting in its respective museum. You get the date it was created, the sizes, the type of paint or canvas that they used. And if you keep scrolling down, you get to a section called videos, and a lot of these pieces of art, especially from some of the more major museums, have these little sort of featurette videos telling you all about the actual piece of art.
Not only a great experience, but you can save a lot on transportation too.
A lot of transportation, a lot of headaches of dragging 35 kids around.
Don't need the lunch bag.
There you go. So Google Cultural Institute, it's kind of one of those resources that I can spend hours and hours going through it, but it's really one that's set up pretty simply. You just click on the things that you're interested in, and you just explore. It's definitely, it's a big button up here, says explore. So I would urge everybody to do that. The next thing that I want to show everybody is a website called instagrok.com. It's a type of search engine, and this one actually I didn't end up sitting in on the session that it was mentioned in. Alex Boshin, our BST over at Thomas Middle School, mentioned it to me as something that he thought was pretty cool, and I decided to take a look, and it in fact is something that is pretty cool. It is, like I said, it's a search engine, and it is kind of laid out in a different way though than what you're used to, where if you go and do a search, let's just do climate change, and we grok. Instead of getting the normal, Google or Yahoo or however you're searching the internet page, where it's just a whole list of different hits on the most useful or the most explored websites, this lays it out in this sort of visual kind of a cover for, I don't know the proper term for it. What is it, like a flow chart, sort of an idea. So here in the middle,
mind map,
something like that, and it just visually lays out all of these ideas. So we see climate change here in the middle, and then branching off of it is all sorts of different little suggestions based on that one topic. Now, one of the cool things about it is up here in the left, you can change your difficulty level. So if you're, an elementary school teacher, if you pop it down to the left, it's searching based on a little more simpler terms for, the younger lads and lasses that we're teaching day to day. We could also push it all the way up towards the top, and it'll give, a little bit more, we see that, the EPA has shown up as an answer, where that might not necessarily be something, a second, third grader needs to be exploring into. It's definitely something that an 8th grader would want to kind of look into. So we can change our difficulty. And then if we click on each of these different topics that shows up, it gives us a couple different options. We have key facts, where it just gives you a very basic sort of statement, but it's filled with different vocabulary words based on the topic that you searched, and also gives you the source as to where this was pulled from. So you can click on the source, it'll bring you, in this case to the Atlantic, bring you down to your actual source online. if we then click next to it, so now something worth mentioning, if there's a statement here that we like, that we want to keep, that is going to be an idea going forward in our whatever our research is or whatever the project is, we click our little pin and it pins it, and we see that it actually puts that statement out there on your main brain map, your main flow chart. And as you kind of click through, you get websites. Oftentimes there are videos. We see that actually there's a video right off of the climate change one over here. Different images and charts, concepts, and then a place for you even to keep notes. Now, it won't actually save notes, or you see that we have a journal entry up here, unless you are signed in. The nice thing is you can sign in with your Google account, so you kind of basically already have an account to Instagram. Again, sort of like all three of the subjects that I'm talking about today, it's going to be something that you want to just sort of explore yourself. They're pretty simple websites, and it's just worth clicking and seeing how it's laid out. One of the last things before I kind of kick it on over to our next little set of subjects is that when you're signed into it, you can actually, it gives you a link to this page. So if you were to have your students, or if you kind of laid out this brain map in a specific way, you can actually share this as a web page with the whole class, with different colleagues, to be able to kind of see through your little flow chart of this particular subject matter. So kind of neat. I'll save my third one since I talked a little bit too much. I can come back at the end and take care of it then. So we're going to pass it off, I believe, to Mr. Fano.
All right, well, while we're switching back over here, one thing that I want to mention for everybody is that you can go ahead and follow along, even with conferences, using the hashtag ICE15. That's what they tagged everything with during the conference itself. And you can go back in and see a ton of resources and suggestions during the conference. So we would definitely highlight that as well to stay connected. And we're going to have a first on 25 with Tech 25. We're going to have a little bit of a giveaway today for anybody who's watching live. For the first one to tweet out to @AHSC25Tech, or send us an email at tech25@sc25. You're going to be able to walk away, or at least borrow temporarily, some of the items I'm going to highlight right now.
The worst prize ever.
Yeah.
You have to give it back.
You have to
Working
give it
with
back.
a low budget here.
Well, we'll see.
25 at Tech
It's only our
25.
10th episode.
Right. You know, we got to do something special.
We don't have corporate sponsorship yet.
So the area that I walked away from ICE as being a huge theme was really the theme of the conference itself, and that was all about maker spaces. And typically when we talk about a maker space, a lot of people think about hardware. You know, 3D printers are hot right now. Some of the things I'm going to show you in just a second are part of that maker space. But I'd like to encourage everybody to think of their classroom as a maker space and how they can help kids design. Now, here are a few ways. Each of these, I'm just going to bring these a little closer here to move this guy out right now. So each of these kits, and there are all different kinds of kits that you can buy that are pretty inexpensive. Each of these are less than $179. And in this case, this is the Raspberry Pi that I'm going to show you first. And it really is a full-fledged computer in a box that you, along with your students, can work to program, to connect, and do any kind of activities that you want. So here's just a little logic board, and you can see that it has all of the connections that you could possibly need to start building your own computer and then programming it. So here you can see there are 4 USB ports. There's a power cord here. It has an out for a video connection. It also has a pin for an external hard drive if you need to. So this is the main board, and this Raspberry Pi, that's where that starts from. But it comes with everything that you need. Everything that you need to connect, all the way down to the cables, the power cords. This is a mini wireless adapter that's in here. So again, you can hook it up to an external hard drive, or you can hook it up to an external video source and be able to, again, build your own kit. All comes in one. So that's the Raspberry Pi. So again, this could be yours.
Also,
Good job, Mr. Solars. Just let me know which one you want. And then this is another kit, again, in the same kind of style, and this is the Arduino kit, another one of the popular Make It models. But again, you can see how sophisticated these start to become. This one comes with the same logic board, but this has an LCD crystal display. Okay, if you can see that. Again, you can hook that up and program it in, send messages, have it be the display for the actual device. And then all of these, I'm going to show the print version. This is the Arduino projects book. And this is just filled with hundreds and hundreds of different projects and examples that staff and students can work on together. And then way beyond this is the maker community, and every one of these kits, whether it's the Arduino, the Raspberry Pi, or even things like Makey Makey, which you may already have in your classroom, come fully supported with project ideas and a huge online community to be able to support them. So this is one example of when they talk about maker spaces, these type of kits, which again are all about computers, programming. But there's also another one which is really about emphasizing the idea of logic, programming, and coding. And this little guy is an example of that. This is called a Sphero, and it really is just this plastic ball. Actually, it's extremely rugged and durable. And inside of it, you can see that there's a computer that has a gyroscope, thank you. And what this is able to do in the simplest form is to be controlled from any iPad or iPhone. And what the really amazing part about this is there's a very simple function which is called drive. So I'm going to leave it on here for right now just to demonstrate. But I can use the app on my phone, and I can simply drive the Sphero in any direction I want. So these are communicating to one another. But the real strength of this is there's a diversity of apps that would allow students and staff to do things like design obstacle courses, program the Sphero to be able to go around them, understand that there's a connection between drawing and everything else that you need to be able to command this device as well. So we have these in the building as well. Really supports the idea of programming and language. So those are just a few of the examples I wanted to share from what they call the makerspace. But I want to leave with this in mind. The idea of a makerspace is not about the tools, okay, 3D printers and circuit boards and all of these other pieces, but it's what are we doing to help kids design, think logically, do some troubleshooting, create something, do iterations of it, be able to present it to others. That really is my concept of a makerspace. So my hope for our district, and something we're going to be working on over the next year or so, is to say every classroom can be a makerspace. It doesn't have to be a different lab or a different place in the school, but really what can we provide and help support to make every classroom a place where kids are designing and thinking about different iterations of these kinds of projects. So that's what I really took away from it. The other thing that I would say is this is high tech, but making stuff is obviously low tech. Cardboard, Legos, tape and glue, all of those things give the opportunities for kids to use their hands in the creative process. So again, it was inspirational to hear them talk about it and see all the cool toys, but it was more motivational to see what can we do for kids to get them building. So with that, we're going to finish off with Andrew, and he's going to talk a little bit about his experience at ICE.
Well, we're being switched over. Mary Beth Sicer came in second place, saying that Instagrok is actually used at Olive and that it's great for research. So Mary Beth Sicer tweeted HSD25 Tech. Ellen Polito did also cheat that Ivy Hill wants these kits.
So we will get those out to you this week. Mr. Solars, Mr. Polito. I'm not sure if Mary Beth wanted anything or not, but we do appreciate her chiming in.
So you may not find this topic as flashy as the first two, but I don't agree, and you'll see why. I am, as you heard, data and system specialist, so data stuff is in my wheelhouse. But this is, I think, for anybody who ever has to produce surveys and quantify the data and get it to somebody, or for your own use. It's really impressive. What we learned at ICE was that the add-ons for Google, which we've been doing, okay. we've obviously been talking Google throughout our 10 episodes, and we saw at ICE that there's a reason why. I mean, they, as everybody says, they're taking over the world, but the add-ons for Docs and Sheets and Google Sites are really impressive, and so this is just one of them. We saw so many while we were there, and we urge you. I just while I was while Tim was talking, I saw top 10 add-ons for educators. So just Google that, and you'll see some of just 10 examples of what's out there. I am truly stealing this gentleman's presentation, but the only reason is there's a couple links in here. So what I wanted to talk about is an add-on called Awesome Tables. And so let's say that you are, it's an incredible way to display data. I think some of us are a little bit frightened by creating, pie charts or really actually, designing some, sort of the flashier stuff that really gives sort of visual representation of data. This does that for you, but it goes way past that. It becomes more of a decision support system, which I'll explain in a second. So if you're gathering data in a Google form, the data ends up in a Google Sheet, and that sheet can be tied to this Awesome Table add-on. And so I'm going to give you an example. I don't like it. I'll keep talking while Tim is helping me out. One other thing about Awesome Tables that I'll get to in a second is that, there's so many times where somebody asks you for data, you go to give them what you thought they wanted, and they come back saying, no, it wasn't. So what this does is give the user the opportunity to actually
Everybody get that?
all done. Hey guys.
Not one of the systems.
Sorry about all this. I just wanted to click on one silly little example for you. Okay, very good. So I'm going to show you the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet has some answers that you might be familiar with if you've ever done a survey. So this doesn't really suit us. It's about name and how old are you and which city best fits you. Are you married? Look at this second row here, and please don't be frightened again by this. This is all that you really have to do yourself. Add a row and type literally these category filter, date filter, whatever this happens to be a multiple choice question. So you would type category filter in this second row, and what this brings you is results like this. So basically, there's a little bit of work to tie to this Awesome Tables gadget, but once you do, these are the questions that you might have I just read off to you. Which city best fits you? Are you married? How old are you? And you see that pie charts are actually generated automatically for you. For a fill-in answer, it actually creates a word map. But what's great about it is you can actually, because of the filters that you put in, you're giving the user the opportunity to change this data. So the user sees these items, they're all in graphical form, but they can themselves change the data to, for this example, 25 to 30 years old, and this data just changed. Okay, so it's based on, here we go with 25 to 30, and we'll say married, yes. So this data changed again. Sorry that this example is not education related. It would have been, maybe a little better, mental image for you. But another thing that it does, I'm going to clear these filters, and you see that on that spreadsheet, we happen to say date filter. So let's go back to the that was the timestamp field. And so you see by saying date filter, you're actually able, it turns it into a scroll. So you could, if that is dates or if it's just numbers, you can choose which range of numbers you want. And again, you're watching the data below alter for you. So really, really impressive when it comes to handing somebody data. Like when I was talking about you handing this off to somebody and they say, no, that's not what I meant. Think about the opportunity they have to alter it to exactly what they want.
Now, so could you, if you were doing something like you did a Google form where kids responded, you could just filter out who answered what question, who answered what on what question really quickly. You could do a list of scores if you were putting it in. Any of those types of answers or numbers, you'd be able to filter off of one of these?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So this literally, pretend this drop down was really literally the kid's name. So you could pick the kid's name.
Oh.
And you could actually then, or you can just say everybody who scored over 75%. You could do anything like that. How many people have laptops in their rooms was one of the examples the guy was using that day. Another thing that Awesome Tables does is if you allow for a question that has select all that apply, if you've ever tried to dissect that data, it's really difficult. What it does by putting a certain filter in that second row is it actually breaks down all of that data for you into separate categories. So you can just say how many, even though we said check all that apply, how many said laptop, how many said laptop and iPad, and again, that data below would change. So truly a decision support system as we talk about it in the biz.
And just so I'm clear, and I guess everybody too, this is actually built into a Google site.
That's correct.
And so,
yes.
so one of the powers is that, or one of the problems I know we've had is someone has a form they keep using, or they think they need to use a different form every time they do something to keep the data separate. They could use the same form on the back end, and it would just keep feeding that information to the site because you can do all your filtering there instead of worrying about doing it in some spreadsheet.
That's exactly right. So a lot of times what we're doing is we're taking the data that we've received back and we're massaging it for hours, where what this actually does is allow the user to do it themselves or for you to do it. Obviously, this can just be a personal for your own use. The other thing is that this doesn't have to be a Google form and a survey. This could be any spreadsheet that you actually already have. This could be a spreadsheet of data that you collected last year or earlier this year, and you can tie, and please call me and contact me about connecting this gadget to your system. I'll give you all the documentation you need and all the help you need. Just really quickly, because we're out of time, is that all that you're doing here is, like I mentioned, you're inserting a row below, and you see these three arrows. All that you're doing is saying, listen, this is a drop down box, so I'm going to type category filter. This is a text box where the user was able to say whatever they wanted. I'm going to type string filter. There's only 5 of them, so it's not like it gets out of hand. But that I just found it to be, these are just examples of the filters. I just found it to be really, really impressive. And anybody who's using data or working with data and want to expand that use, Awesome Tables is just as it sounds.
That is awesome. My big question to you is, do your hands get tired after all of that data massaging?
Yes, they really do. Not anymore, though.
No, not with Awesome
Tables.
With Awesome Tables, you keep your hands nice and fresh. It's great.
Exactly.
Well, we want to thank everybody for a wonderful 10th episode, Bonanza Spectacular. We'll be sending out these wonderful giveaways, and we now know that that's the way to get people to tweet us. But again, thank you again for everybody who went to and is sharing about ICE and all the other professional development you do. Anything else from the crew?
Just want to say that, this was our 10th episode. We have 10 episodes that are recorded and available to watch for anybody, any first-time viewers, on the YouTube page, which you can be linked to from our Tech Wiki page, which I believe is the site, the links that went out today in that email. So this episode included will be up there later on this evening. Thanks for joining us once again.
Make it a great day.
Thank you.